Secret friends, unite!
Welcome to the Secret Friends Unite podcast, episode 449. This is the official guide to the geek side, and I am one of your hosts, Todd, terrifying Oxtra, joined by Charlie, chilling Carden.
I couldn't be more chilling. I mean, hoodie, sweatshirt, stubbly face, amongst all of my goods. Oh, this is the calm before the storm, as I will talk about later. There's some crazy stuff coming up here in GR.
Yeah, the Simpsons writers, when they do the credits where they give everybody like the scary names, they're far better at this than I am. So I'm like, I've got to think of something better maybe in the next few years, like Charlie Chud Carden.
Matt Groening. Charlie Chum, like what they throw to the sharks.
Oh, Chud. No, the Chud.
You know my Chud story right now. That was a movie that I just could not watch because it was like, a trailer got out or whatever. I was 8 in 1984, and I saw it maybe 10 years ago, and I was like, this is fucking bullshit. I mean, it wasn't scary at all. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, the level of scary is different. Like Vamp was the movie that, as a kid, I saw the trailer, scared the poop on me just watching the trailer. It was a Grace Jones vampire film, which I don't know if I've ever gone back and watched it now as an adult. I don't know.
Was Grace Jones the scary part? Do you remember her from Boomerang?
From Boomerang, yes.
Yeah,
Marcus.
She was. Yeah, exactly. No, that was Eartha Kitt.
Oh, okay. Well, regardless, some elder statesmen, former Bond villains, former Batman villains, were after Eddie Murphy,
and they both got him. I think. Well, at least Earth Kid did.
Oh my goodness!
Oh, yes. Great flick. But anyway, hey, good to be here. Calm before the storm. Grand Rapids Comic Con is next weekend, but I will sprinkle that in between. But in the time in between, our poor actor striking SAG-AFTRA folks. Day 105 with dashed hopes here over the weekend, if I'm not mistaken. I haven't seen a headline, but what I was reading at the end of the week was, we're feeling cautiously optimistic. We're going back to this deal. And it's Sunday, and I haven't heard boo. And no news is not good news in this scenario. So as always, entertainmentcommunity.org, if you're able to help these fine people kind of in their hour of need. So you were have you heard something that I haven't heard?
Oh, I haven't. The biggest update was the skit on SNL on Fran Drescher talking about you can't dress up as these struck properties, which was great.
And then they brought out the little girl dressed as the nanny.
That's right.
I'll tell you, SNL was a nice bounce back this week because they had a great stand-up comedian, Nate Bargatze, who's somebody who I hear all the time on my comedy channels on Sirius XM in my car.
I've not heard of him before, but he was very good.
Yeah, as opposed to Bad Bunny, which was just way too niche for me. I kind of snoozed my way through that.
It's hard when you've got a guy who, with English is not your first language, to do English comedy. But I thought they did the best they could with the host. Because they can't use actors right now, Charlie. So what are you going to do? You got musicians.
Yeah.
You got
stand-ups. Yeah.
Stand-ups. Yeah.
Voice actors or whatever. I mean, and it's not
stars. Travis Kelce on.
Yeah, sports stars and non-English speaking musicians are tough hosts, but you know what? They keep trying because they keep trying to reach out. But anyway, this is not the SNL wrap-up show. This is the Secret Friends Unite show, and this is the part of the show where we give some extra special hugging and loving to our patrons, the folks that make it possible for us to make all the fun extra content that we make. At the top tier of that, again, of course, visit patreon.com/secretfriendsunite for a 1-week trial of all of our great audio and video content. Friends with benefits level, Corey and HG, John Sedorf, the awesome Phoenix Sisters cosplay, Mr. Brendan Myers. Our top tier folks are the BFFs, the awesome Nias family, Sean, Stella, and Henry, my dear friend Missy Merchant, and Andy Milliken. We are grateful for you. And again, visit patreon.com/secretfriendsunite to give us a try. We've got all kinds of fun stuff there, ranging from additional movie and TV and comic book content, interview programs, and all kinds of fun stuff. So again, sign up for a week. And if you like what you like, stick around. We look forward to not hearing from you per se, but we'd love to, but you hearing from us.
If you're in our Discord, we would definitely hear from you, though. So
You
that's part of the
absolutely, yeah.
benefits.
That's one of the perks, absolutely. Well, speaking of perkerific things, now, Todd, I love this cover that you've chosen this week, not only for this garish image, but the drop date is February 1994. I became a man in February of 1994, in so much that I turned 18. That was my senior year of high school. And the highlight of that spring, sadly, was the High School Musical. Did not get a girlfriend out of that. Prom was a pretty miserable experience. So I was ready for college at the end of spring of 1994.
It was not your senior year of dreams.
It was not.
Logan was in a musical last year. He was in the pit band, and one of his friends, he was one of the characters in The Fiddler on the Roof, and he ended up actually getting a girlfriend of it who was one of the daughters of Tevye. So sometimes it does work, Charlie. It's not for you.
I dabbled. There was a little back and forth, but nothing that stuck. It was weird. A high school experience. Nobody knows what the hell you're doing. But anyway, February of 1994, DC Comics, The Green Lantern, or as Todd likes to say in his Flint accent, Green Lantern, issue 49.
Flint accent? I mean, is it like Jodeci? I mean, I don't know what that means. Michael Moore? I'm trying to think of any of the great Flinters.
Does Jodeci say Green Lantern in any of their songs?
Casey Jojo
and Green Lantern.
Maybe. I'm sure it's a hidden track on the B-side. Yeah. Green Lantern.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Jam. No, that's
Terry.
Not Teddy
Lewis,
Pendergrass.
Yeah.
It was
Terry Lewis and
it was no. You're thinking of Guy.
Jam.
It was Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. That's from your Milwaukee. But I was thinking of Guy.
Yes.
The future. But anyway, Green Lantern number 49. As you can see, if you're watching us on YouTube, you got GL himself with green eyes. He's envious of himself, wearing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, so 14 rings? Or is he not doubled up? 13 rings? 1, 2, 4, 6.
Not in all fingers, no.
I didn't know if it matched because I look at the pinky as 2 and 1 and whatever it is.
None on the thumbs either. So
the thumbs. Yeah, so he's got that's pretty fantastic. Now, I'm getting the feeling, because he doesn't do this all the time, that this is not a sustainable scenario for him. Doesn't look like, doing this would be some kind of power multiplier. I mean, obviously you see on the middle finger of his right hand, the OG ring, and all the other ones pretty much looks like, he was at the quarter slots at Kmart getting those out of those litose little
baubles. It can't really replace your wedding ring either. So I think that's really what it comes down to. So the reason I picked this cover, Charlie, is because this was really a unique time for myself. I was a freshman at MSU, started getting back into comics at this point. So I'd go every Tuesday, I believe Wednesday. To remember when New Comic Book was back in the day.
I don't recall. I feel like it was Wednesday.
But I would hop over to, Campus Comics? It was the run right on Grand River.
Yeah.
Corner.
Don't know that it's still there. Later on, when you and I were roomies, we would drive down Michigan Avenue, and there was a shop on the left. It was a pretty rundown kind of shop. And what's interesting is that old guy, he passed away. Not that that's interesting or not interesting. His entire collection went to his sister, who is still selling portions of it today in a bookstore that she has further down on Michigan Avenue. I was just in there a couple weeks ago. Yeah.
No, this was it was probably the cleanest and most presentable comic shop.
I think wasn't it in the basement of that one building there?
No, it wasn't in the basement at all. It was right next to BW3's. It was essentially on that area right there. So a good area, good foot traffic. So I think that's why I ended up there versus other shops which were a little bit like iffy.
Skeevier.
And so I started getting back into it. I want to check out what's going on with Green Lantern. So I actually got back into Green Lantern, who is my favorite solo DC character. This is essentially when he had his falling down moment, Breaking Bad, whatever you would say for Green Lantern.
Oh, and that's when he went, and was that the death of Superman where he destroyed a city or whatever?
Yes. So that was it was kind of weird with DC because it was all like trying to get edgy with all of these classic characters who were very aging and trying to move forward into a new era with new heroes.
Aging, yeah.
Yeah, so essentially Coast City was destroyed during the death of Superman reign, and Mongol came in and took out Coast City, which was Hal Jordan's town, and he was struggling with it because of the basically everything that went down. He wanted to resurrect them, wanted to say that, and he thought if he had just more power, he could resurrect the town, bring everybody back who perished. So essentially, he broke. And he essentially went to all the lanterns to get their support. And when he didn't support him, he essentially took their rings away and left them for dead in space. When you're in space, you don't breathe. So essentially, we assume all these lanterns he took their rings from died. And this led to eventually, this is why it's called Emerald Twilight, essentially Hal Jordan snapping, going against the Guardians and becoming Parallax, which led into 0 Hour, many other things, led into Kyle Rayner, which was a replacement Green Lantern for him. And then we had to wait many, many years until Green Lantern was basically redeemed and resurrected under Rebirth. And that was a really cool line. You found out that actually the yellow, basically their weakness to yellow was actually driven by this being called Parallax, which basically was a weakness by this being that was put into the Lantern Corps. So after that, the yellow weakness was removed. So there was no weakness anymore. It was just the limit of a Green Lantern's will to be strong. That was it. So this is kind of where a lot of characters around DC at this time. And this was really a bad time. If you were a fan of Heritage Comics with Marvel and DC,
they're just trying to,
shut up because nothing was connecting any longer because Image was changing the game.
Right, yeah. Over at Marvel, this was the time of Onslaught, and then Heroes Reborn, and then eventually Return. Then we got into the early 2000s, and at least at Marvel, the Ultimate line came along, and then that's really what. But yeah, you had a period of time in most all of the 90s when things were just, was not clicking.
Dour.
But anyway,
the best way to put it. Yeah.
What's that? They were very dour.
It was dour. Exactly. It was the dour times.
It was the dour. It was the dark times, the times of the Empire. Oh, well, you know who? No matter if she hits on a dark time, always manages to bounce back. She's way out of legacy, numbering even at 123 years young. Talking about Madam Webb, our senior news correspondent down at the corner of Hollywood and Vine. She's got the latest scoops for us always. So let's go check it out.
Now it's time for Madam Webb's rumors and news. Take it away, boys.
Thank you, Madam Webb. Madam Webb, I was inspired this weekend. I was watching our local movie horror host is actually out of Chicago, Sven Gulli. He's a lot of fun. He still does he's great, Charlie. He's in Chicago and he's been around for 40 years. He just really is a funny guy. He's having a lot of fun doing it. I'm thinking, that reminds me when Madam Webb tried her hand at being a horror host. She became Madam Webbula. And Charlie...
She gets sued.
Movie she could get was like she'd get clips of Little Rascals, and then she could get clips of like Heathcliff cartoons, and they weren't very scary, didn't go very well. And
oh my god,
as a pirate radio station, TV station out of her basement. So the values were essentially anything that showed up that was creepy was essentially like a rodent or a stray cat in her basement.
Oh my God. That makes me wonder because of your Sven Gulli out of Chicago. We had Count Scary in Detroit. Is he dead? Is that why we don't see him anymore?
He was a sportscaster or newscaster as well?
Must have been. I had a 45 LP because I think he came into my mom was a sales assistant at Blair, which is an ad agency in the Fisher Building. I think he must have come into her orbit in some fashion. That was the only reason we had heard about him. So interesting.
Did your mom date Count Scary, Charlie? Maybe that's something we should look into.
You know what? If she did, I bet she'll never tell. Never, ever tell. Anyway, all right.
Oh, Tom Ryan. He was a disc jockey.
Tom Ryan.
Back in the day. From 1990s.
More Irish name.
On WDIV would be Channel 4.
Yeah. How could he be a disc jockey on TV?
He was a disc jockey and he probably maintained that persona and then showed up. Yeah, I got some 3D glasses at Wendy's for Count Scary when they showed a movie on Channel 50, which showed all the scary movies.
Oh my God! Channel 50 was the Star TNG syndicated station. That's how my dad got me my Worf cutout that used to live in this very basement.
Showed all the Red Wings games, showed all the Pistons games, and they showed a lot of scary movies back in the day. So I watched. All right, it was a lot.
All right, fellow Detroiters, hit us up at Secret Friends U on X. Let us know your Detroit memories. Okay, all right. First up, we talked about this either last episode or the episode before. Daredevil, born again, is being born again. We talked about previously how Kevin Feige has come along and in analyzing what had been filmed. He said, nope, this isn't working. We're done. Scrap-a-rooney. So that show, and then again, and also according to the fact this really coincided with the actor-writer strike, so it was plenty of time to shit can it. You think any of that will ever see the light of day, or is it going to be buried under the jail?
It sounds like they're going to use some of it, but this is going to be weird, Charlie, because it sounds like they're trying to recapture the feel of the Daredevil Netflix series, which they've already introduced him as kind of a lighter, fair character, along with the Kingpin, who is also a little bit different. And I know you wanted to talk about, and we'll get to that, about kind of like behind the scenes between Kevin Feige and the old TV.
But the new MCU audiobook, which I'm going to snag. Yeah,
but in this piece, I mean, you've got the people behind Loki coming back and basically taking the helm and redoing Daredevil. I mean, beyond Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio, we don't know much about this series. We know Born Again is a classic Daredevil run, and we've, with the Netflix series already hitting on kind of so many big story beats already that, I mean, do you go back to the well and try to retell those again, or what do you do with Daredevil that we don't already know or haven't already experienced? How does that work for the MCU? How does it work for Disney Plus shows? I don't know, but as of right now, doing something different might be better.
I mean, and again, the story we have has to around a new showrunner and taking on an 18 episode run that will likely be pared down, because if you look at what they've already spent and then rebudgeting this deal, but I do really hone with this last paragraph is that all of that stuff starting over again sounds pretty scary, but it said let's step back a bit, and I like this. Marvel was making something it realized wasn't great, and they stopped. And now they're going in a new direction, because let's look at some of their very massive failures in the last couple of years. Secret Invasion being the top of the stack. Nobody liked it. It was trash. I mean, it's a laundry list. Movies, underperforming films. Guardians 3 did okay, but certainly I'm sure not the expect that they were hoping for. Some of their other shows, again, just not really.
But I would say, but dollar signs versus actual critical response and fan response, I think Guardians is really on par with some of the better MCU things.
Oh, I agree. But
but I mean, I don't think that's the hard time. You can't pair the money they used to make and say it's a success anymore. If they make something critically acclaimed, people love it and enjoy it. That's what they want. Whether the money follows or not is kind of hard to tell these days, because that's a harder thing to do.
When things stream, yeah, you're right. So because it's not a metric of ticket sales and box office, this and that, as opposed to streaming and how that goes back and forth and minutes and in minutes turning into the more traditional form of ratings, making ratings that much more accurate, which fits they've never been, as opposed to a little box, or when I was in radio, a little diary you had to fill out or whatever it is, knowing what people actually watch.
I didn't know anybody in the Nielsen household, quite honestly.
No, I mean, when I worked in local radio, Grand Rapids is a diary market, which somebody got a little book in the mail and you got $1 or whatever the hell it was, and you wrote down.
It's like Nielsen the same way. You had a box, you'd select, did I watch it? And then you do that. I'm like, I don't think even people are doing that these days.
There's nothing to record. It all goes through your Roku box or your streamer stick or whatever. Yeah. But regardless, I like this, and again, we're faced up against the fact that our chances of having content of much of anything in 2024 is just continuing to dwindle. So I'm very happy to think that maybe Marvel has kind of woken up and smelled the coffee, as it were, and figured out that they're on a bad track, and they want to find a way to turn it around. That I like.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. If the fact that they can take a step back and say, this doesn't feel right, doesn't look right, doesn't smell right, we need to stop and do it right.
Stop smelling Daredevil.
Is going to do a lot more to them, because if we know this, to retain viewers, you need critically acclaimed things.
Right.
You need people that love the things.
There's got to be a buzz.
If things are mediocre, people will cancel the subscription. I let my Hulu and Disney Plus subscription go right now. I haven't let it go. It's gonna expire, and eventually, if I get a good deal, I'll get back into it. But I'm there at that point. But I like the fact that they are taking account for this isn't working and we need to do better. We can't just get by on the fact it's Disney Plus. Come for all of our content, because you've already watched it over the last 3 years. So what's new? We'll see how this goes. And I'm hopeful hopeful, and maybe they'll say our formula for going after what we're doing is not working, and maybe we need to say TV is going to be different than our movies, and you're going to come to Disney Plus for TV series, which I've already asked for this, Charlie, but I haven't gotten a lot of it. I want more animated things because I think those work really well. In the areas they're not going to cover on a film, do those animated on a smaller screen. So the geeks like us,
easier
they'll be like, hey, they're going to cover this storyline. That's amazing. Like X-Men 97.
Well, yeah, like DC has done that with all the Batman stuff. Look at all those Batman little TV animated films, Hush, and
even the
going
movies,
back to Red Hood.
They do the self-contained storylines.
Yeah,
do some of that because that's when you get like the big fans. And even if the other people don't go, it's like, well, if I'm going to watch a cool Marvel limited series that's animated, only way I can get it is on Disney Plus. The Marvel fans will go for it.
Right. So okay,
maybe I'm wrong.
I think maybe so. All right, this next story. Are you watching this show? Because I'm not watching this show. Or did you forget to switch this out?
I have not watched more than the first couple episodes of the first season of Chucky, but it is fun. It's a really cool take on Chucky, and it's by the creator, Don Mancini, which is awesome. Don Mancini has largely been involved with Chucky all through the 80s to today, which is
that's pretty.
I don't know if there's another property where you get one person, a creative that has followed it. And I don't know if you've seen any of the commercials where they've had with it, Charlie, lately. Chucky's in the White House. Like somebody brought Chucky to the White House, and we've got it's crazy. I love it though. It's like this is what Chucky does. And Jennifer Tilly's involved again. And you got Devon Sawa, who is he's a horror royalty.
Oh, Devon Sawa. Yeah. Oh, you talk. Oh, Devon from Final Destination. He was the first guy. Now I will talk about in the Geek Easy how I finally we finally watched because I'd never seen it, or at least don't believe I have. How you and I were talking about this, the original Child's Play from 1987. So I said, could we watch it right before bed last night? I'm like, I probably ought to jam a YouTube like catch up video and see everything that's happened in between. But I've heard everything. There was Bride of Chucky, and it's Jennifer Tilly, but the first film ended with
Didn't we watch a Chucky last year? Like Chucky,
I don't think
the Cult of Chucky.
I just don't think so.
I did. I know I did. I think we did. Yeah. Where they're in the insane asylum.
As far as
Chucky
one of
got brought in.
Oh, maybe so. You see, I don't know. But anyway,
Tilly came back
I feel like we've totally talked about this, but I think the biggest issue is where is it? Where do you watch it at? Isn't it on Sci-Fi or
Peacock? It goes Peacock.
It's on Peacock. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, they've been advertising.
Got it. I like it.
On Peacock. Yeah.
So So anyway, let me. And this helps me out. So yeah. Oh, but it does say Sci-Fi USA Networks Chucky. That's where I got lost. Let's see. Yes, it comes under the unwitting protection of the youngest son of the President of the United States, and the biggest threat is the conspiracy brewing in the White House. Okay, I'm interested.
I watched the first couple episodes of the first season, and I'm like, I like this because it's essentially kid finds Chucky at like a vintage sale, and then he's kind of an outcast, and he's an artist, and basically Chucky becomes like the one who reaches out and does kind of like the bad things to help the good guy, which is kind of like, oh. So
the good guys,
he's using his bad for good, which is kind of like Robin Hood, right? The Robin Hood of horror, Chucky. But I like this. Yeah, but this headline is kind of cool because we have a new doll from last year, which I still haven't watched it, but I will, with Megan. So Megan was the toast of the
You have not seen Meg. We didn't talk about that on the show. I'm sure we did. M3
you watched it. I never watched it though.
Oh boy. Huh. But it is on Peacock.
I know it's free to watch, and I'll watch it.
Yeah. And they have an unrated version, which is a little more gruesome. So yeah, check it out.
I assume. Yes. So the fact is that we have a new doll who's AI, Meg Thregan, as we could call her.
M3gan, yes.
Yes. And so the fact is that Don Mancini thinks, why not pair up Chucky and Megan together? And I'm like, why not? I mean, anything is possible. We've got Freddy and Jason to team up. Charlie, I mean, we've got like the Monster Squad where all of the Universal monsters teamed up. this would be a lot of fun. I like in horror allows you to do this stuff because it's so ridiculous.
Right.
Anyways, it's not like there's set rules. We can't do this. No, you can do this because they're dumb dolls that kill people.
Oh my God! Oh, I continue to read. You know who they're also bringing in, reading this down? Nia Vardalos, the Greek wedding woman. It's going to be.
Is she having a Greek wedding with a puppet?
Yes, exactly. Oh my God! Yeah, they're going to make her to him up and said, "All right, I'm convinced." You know, I was down on this, but now I'm going to watch this shit. I'm totally absorbed.
Why not? It's like 8 episodes per season on Chucky that's on USA,
and it's only been a couple
movies.
And they're on Peacock. Yeah, because the original film, again, I'll check in with that in a bit, had some sequels as well. So absolutely fantastic. Okay, here's a headline I saw earlier in the week. We know
we talked about previously with the Ultimate Universe rebooted.
Correct. Yeah, the Ultimate Universe rebooted. So instead of just bringing back, kind of same old, like, oh, let's tell those same old stories, it feels like they're picking up where they left off. Because the Ultimate Spider-Man, which launched in the year 2000, it launched the imprint, ran through 2000 and I think 14 or so, and it died in order to create Secret Wars 2015. And even prior to that, the Peter Parker of that universe got killed off, and Miles Morales, who was the original character of that universe, took over before obviously crossing the universal barrier.
He was the only thing that survived, I believe.
Yeah, 1610.
Yeah.
So so is rather than it's acting as a major reboot rather than a continuation of 1610 that died and lived again after Secret Wars. So they're resetting Peter Parker. So now we're getting him as, a legal adult. In a title called Meet the Parkers in Ultimate Spider-Man #1. So you see, just scroll down this, Peter maskless with a bushy hipster beard, and he's got 2 ginger kids, and there's Mary Jane with a really abnormal amount of freckles. She's very frecklish. This and it's written by Jonathan Hickman. What the hell do you want? He's the guy, right? So
yeah, he nails it. Yeah.
Yeah, this seems exciting to me. And again, we talk a lot about this stuff. We're like, we're going to read this, and we do a really shitty job of reading things, but we're always working on it. At least we have over on Patreon the spinner rack that's kind of jamming us into reading stuff. So this looks fun. Yeah, Hickman. Now this is an ongoing series, I'm assuming. Or
yeah,
at
there's
least
like 4 titles. I think there's 4 Ultimate titles at least coming out of this.
If people read it, which is the only thing that makes anything an ongoing series. But yeah, no, that's cool. So I look forward to that. And again, this is not the first time we've had Peter and Mary Jane married with children of some age. We've had the wedded, oh God, no, I can't remember the name of the title. The one that gave us Mary Jane a Spinneret. So and they had a Spider-Man family that spun out of Spider-Verse with
it was AXS or whatever that universe.
It was A versus and she was Mayday, so because she was May Parker, and Peter Parker was he was a police detective who had lost a leg, so he was peg leg Peter Parker, not still doing a lot of Spider-Man stuff, but he had a goatee. Here he has a beard. So yes, I guess that's what
you do. When you
get older and you get
a body arm, you have to grow back some facial hair. It is interesting because the Superman and Batman title have been bringing in like the next gen, which has been Damian
the Sons,
and John, and it's been great. So it would be cool to see, if done well, Spider Kids. Now, if they're horrible, you kill them off.
They're like Wesley Crusher.
Yeah. How do you kill off these kids? We got to kill these kids
in an exploding car. Drive them off a roof. Oh my gosh! All right, moving on. We have a sequel that was announced to a movie that it was a surprise hit of last summer. Todd, go ahead.
Oh, I loved The Black Phone, and The Black Phone was it was a surprise hit. Did really well. Hit all the notes. It really wasn't a horror film. It really was kind of like a
suspense thriller,
a retelling of a story about that really did happen, and just really brought in some supernatural elements as well, about basically a kid trapped in a horror dungeon by our big fan Kevin Bacon, kind of a bad dude.
Wasn't I thought it was Ethan Hawke. Yeah,
no, Ethan Hawke. That's right.
Yeah, there you go.
They're almost the same person.
I mean, and he was wearing a creeper mask for most of it. So it could have been Kevin Bacon. Maybe he was the stand-in. I don't know.
Yeah, but to me, just a really standout movie. Really self-satisfying. Very horrific as a parent. Yeah. And then really had a great conclusive ending.
Right.
But when something does well, what do, Charlie? You say, let's make more.
Yeah. Have you ever named me a hit film, critically acclaimed or otherwise, that didn't get a sequel, or at least somebody took a stab at it? And it's usually always pretty iffy. I mean, it's weird. Yeah, like I think Back to the Future. First one was the classic, second one was meh, and then the third one I thought went out with the bang. And Robert's
the second movie though, because it's so goofy with like the future and all
the first half
things.
of it. Yeah,
I love that.
I love the third one. I think even when April and I were like watching movies in the hotel room as we were traveling west, we're like, well, let's watch Back to the Future 3 because it's Old West. You know what I mean?
They're all fun. I think it's a great trilogy. Now it is funny because the Joe Hill, who is Stephen King's son,
right,
who writes under that name, it was the Black Phone was based on his story. So it looks like the second installment comes straight from Joe Hill again, which is cool. So I think they could nail this. It'll be interesting to see if we see Ethan Hawke's mask-wearing maniac come back,
right,
killer. I think it would make sense. Maybe the mask to follow.
Oh, so it's like
a mask. Wearer is something different,
like Scream, like the what's it? Yeah, the ghost face. Yeah, exactly. Now this does say we could look forward to seeing this in June of 2025. Let's hope.
Yeah, this was the first movie was set in the 70s, so you could see this would be like a
generation later or modern day,
early 2000s, because then you bring technology like cell phones. Because in the first Black Phone, it was basically a dial-up rotary phone, like a payphone, and it's kind of different. You know, things change, but when you don't get a signal, Charlie. It feels like you're back in 1970.
Yeah.
You don't have a signal.
Why won't this thing work? The Black Phone, if you haven't seen it, it says the bottom. It's now streaming on Peacock. So,
So
Peacock is, I think Peacock and Lotto, I won't say it's a must-have service. It is nice. They do slide the commercials in there, but the thing about commercials on streaming is mute it and look at your phone. And it's almost like it's not there at all. And they don't do it so much with the movies. They'll have a long block at the beginning, and then you pretty much be able to watch.
Oh yeah, I think it's highly. It's not upset. It's not
intrusive,
hurting you. It's not intrusive. I think it works well, and it's a cheap enough service that I think it's well worth it, especially if you're a sports fan. It has all the WWE stuff. It has football, a lot of leagues, kind of like Paramount Plus also has that as well. I don't know if I don't know if Peacock has NBC like the news, like Paramount Plus does, which would be nice.
I mean, news can be found in a lot of different places, so it's really not that big of a deal.
Correct. But if you like the morning shows like Good Morning America, Today Show, you still want to watch those. Or whatever. And we are diehards for that. So
I remember even in college, I used to watch the Today Show for some reason was mine back in the Matt Lauer days before he was a sex monster.
I did not watch those until when I was graduating, I was helping care for a quadriplegic friend of mine, Charlie Parkhill. He had on the Today Show every day. So I'm like, oh, this is a thing. Oh, I enjoy Al Roker. Hey, Al Roker, how are you doing?
I know it's very, very comforting. All right, final story. And again, I looked at this. I'm like, oh God, is this about John Wick? And is this about The Witcher? Two things I don't watch. No, it's about Here We Are. Take it, Todd. Do Masters of the Universe. Da, na, na, na. We just destroyed that Queen song, but we're talking about Highlander, which was a very iconic science fiction fantasy film from 1980. I'm going to say 6.
And that's all that ever happened. Only one thing was done.
Nothing ever happened. Yep. Yeah, it says the reboot is based on the only thing it could be based on, the 1986 original starring Christopher Lambert, the awesome Sean Connery, and the guy who I was described to as sounding like at a wedding last month, Clancy Brown. This was a guy who heard my voice but was not looking at me. I don't know how that makes me sound like Clancy Brown, but he turned around and said,
"You need to gargle some like and then you'll sound like you get some more gravel into your voice, Charlie.
You sound like John Waits. When I see you tonight on a downbound train." Anyway, that movie, I kid you not, I had never seen it till about 5 years ago. It was one of those
seen it, though. That's good.
I have. Everybody talked about it. It was one of these. There can only be one. And here's Sean Connery. He was like a Don Quixote kind of character, wasn't he? Didn't we?
Kind of was, a Spaniard. So a Spaniard with a Scottish accent. Gotta love it.
You know what? It's like Patrick Stewart, the Frenchman with a British accent.
Well, it's like Christopher Lambert. His accent is like he's French, and you can never tell what accents he's doing. It's like, where are you from?
And that dude is he's just a weird looking cat.
He's a weird dude. Remember when he did Greystoke, The Legend of Tarzan? I saw that in theater. I did. That was weird.
The thing I found most unbelievable the entirety of the Highlander film was the beginning sequence when people were at a wrestling match at Madison Square Garden and were losing their minds. They were so excited. Yeah. Oh my God. So anyway, so this is rumored to be back in production as a reboot, helmed by the director of John Wick. Todd, I know you're a big fan, but the star is said to be Henry Cavill, the Superman who starred in a film that apparently only Todd and I really enjoyed, and gave birth to an absolutely terrible incarnation of the DC universe. But anyway, this was first reported back in 2021 that Cavill was in talks. And now the talks, I just love getting all these stories when we know nothing's getting made. Maybe the script's being worked on. They're aiming for a 2024 start date. Well, guess what? That's what everybody's aiming for, because that's all you're going to get, especially since it almost is November 1st. So this is exciting. I would love to go see this and kind of see what gets made out of it. And again, your John Wick guy obviously knows how to do the action. Henry Cavill is a big hunk of beefsteak. He's going to blow that out one way or the other. Yeah. So this should be fun.
I don't know who owns the rights to this, Charlie, because at this point I'm looking at like the original distributors. It's like a weird group called Thorn EMI through Columbia Canon Warners, 20th Century Fox Canon, in the United States and Germany. Yeah, so
you're talking about the original. This says Lionsgate is set to distribute in the US. So
so somehow they got the rights through some deal, which makes sense. And so if that's Lionsgate, who does Lionsgate even fall under now?
I don't know, but they still tend to be
they're owned by somebody, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactamundo. So anyway, this should be fun. And again, take everything with the grainiest of grainy.
Well, they own Stars, Charlie, so they can be part of the Outlander.
Stars, get it for $2 a month. You know that they're doing well.
Exactly.
You get it for $2 a month.
I love the Highlander. I did not enjoy anything that happened after that.
There is nothing that happened.
Exactly. There can only be one, and there is only one movie, and nothing else followed it. But I mean, it's a cool concept. That's a lot of fun. The fact that Queen was involved with it. I mean, they also were involved in Flash Gordon. So money more than quality.
Flash Gordon is one of the few things I can think of that they were like, we made it, we fucked it up, it's dead forever, because it's been 40 years.
No, there was a sci-fi series that was horrible. It was like in Vancouver. Rather than being on like an alien planet, we'll just film in Vancouver.
We'll be in Kamloops, so we'll just film in the woods.
It's like the Masters of the Universe movie. Eternia? Who needs that? We're going to Earth.
Who needs it? We've got the Gaslight District in Vancouver. Oh my goodness. Yes. Oh boy. Well, all right. Well, that is the end of the news, perhaps mercifully. But it's time to get out that Uber app, that feeble Uber app. The Geek Easy awaits down in Scugtown, Nastyville. Let's get a ride. We can talk about what we're digging. Let's go.
Talk nerdy to me. Talk nerdy to me.
We're sitting the Geek Easy, drinks are poured, and we are ready to get our nerd on. And this week, we're wrapping up the spooky season. This episode will drop on Halloween. So if you're listening, enjoy it. And then the day after, obviously, put on your lights and you listen to Christmas music. That's how it works, right, Charlie?
Todd, most people have been listening to Christmas music for the last 30 days.
They have their Hallmark channel turned on. Right. And it's like, what can I watch? My God. Hey, is Candace Cameron Bure got another special out?
Wasn't that a great? We're going back to talk about SNL, the bit about the Halloween
Hallmark horror movies. Yes,
if there's two things women like, it's Hallmark movies and murder.
Yeah, boo means boyfriend on the Hallmark channel. Yes, it was a great check that trailer. It was a really good one. Yes, but this week I actually read a book, Charlie. Oh my God,
a book like a whole book, like with words.
A thing with words and no pictures.
How long was it? 32
it
pages.
was almost 200 whole pages.
You read a book in the last 7 days?
No, like I read it in like 2 weeks because I was reading like it at night before I would fall asleep. And this one was called out in an article I read about like, hey, great books to read for Halloween. I'm like, awesome. This one's called Dark Harvest. It's by Norman Partridge. This is from 2007 and actually won awards for like, I'm trying to think of the big like horror award. It was at the, not the Van Helsing. It's like something like that, though.
No, we're gonna stick with that. I like that. The Van
Helsing Award.
Van Helsing.
Yeah. But this is a cool book because the premise is pretty straight. I think you would enjoy this. And there's a movie that just came out this year that I haven't watched based on the adaptation. The adaptation is actually, I think David Slade was the director of this, and it's kind of cool. It's set in like the 1960s, and it's a town that is beset by a curse. And every year, the teenage boys have to go out and kill this creature called Sawtooth Jack, and on Halloween. If they don't kill him, basically a pestilence or plague will come around their crops and destroy it and basically kill the economy of the town.
So that's kind of a combo between Cabin in the Woods and Ready or Not, which is a movie April and I rewatched after not seeing it from when it came out, which was the family that they had to play a game that spat out of a machine to appease the devil.
Wanted to watch. It sounds like a cool premise.
It's fantastic, and it's now on my Vudu. Wink, if you want to watch it. It was like $5, so I bought it.
Sure.
Great flick.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of reminds me of like the lottery. Remember that old chestnut of like you won but you die, kind of story.
Oh, I thought the lottery was a movie with Lisa Kudrow and shucks.
I'm sure there was a comedy movie.
John Travolta.
Brewster's Gold.
Yeah, John Travolta.
Brewster's Millions.
Brewster's Millions.
All million, yeah.
I like Gold. It's like a combination of that and Curly's Gold.
Exactly. But this is cool because it's set in the 60s, and this does have a tone. The writer did a good job of making it feel like it was of the time. The way it was written was very much like witty and quick and kind of dealing with like, hey, and it was from the perspective of a kid who is going to be part of this horde of teens that gets released to have to take down this creature called Sawtooth Jack, which is ultimately like, if you think of like Jack Skellington from Nightmare Before Christmas, he's got a pumpkin head, he breathes fire, and he is lethal. And if they don't kill him by midnight, essentially the town loses and the town will be in disarray. And that's kind of how it all kicks off. And these kids are basically kept in their rooms for 5 days, fed with just water, and that's about it. Basically, because they want them hungry, focused, and to take out this this creature.
They want them on bread and water, so they're as weak as possible, or maybe certain ones will be weaker, so it'll be kind of like cannon fodder, grist for the mill.
Kind of like that, but I mean, it was interesting. So when they released the kids, and that's kind of the original premise. The way the book was written, very well done. I really enjoyed it. I thought the turn that happens within the book, that is kind of like maybe things aren't as we are thinking, happens about halfway through, which is cool because then you're kind of like, oh, what's going to happen now? Kind of neat. And but once again, this really was a cool premise. It was very much to the point, cutting out any of like the fat that you would normally see in a book where it's like it's 500 pages. Really get this down. And this was, like I said, it was a fast read, and I enjoyed it for that. I felt like there was nothing else put in that wasn't needed to tell the story effectively. I really enjoyed this. It's called Dark Harvest. There is a movie out you can rent. It's like $5 to rent or $20 to own. I'm going to check that out because it seems like in the guy David Slade, he did 30 Days of Night, which if you saw that movie, that was really freaky. So
big time.
So I think and it's got decent reviews. So I'm going to definitely check that out, and I'll add it to my list. So if you're not interested in reading it, Charlie, I think the movie you might like. So it's called Dark Harvest. It's really cool.
And it came out again.
And you might recommend the book to April because she might like it, being a horror fan.
And when it came out, when the movie
2006. It's
really?
been out for a while. Yeah.
Fascinating. Oh, they'd be worth a check through where to watch or whatever. See where that was at.
Or you can get it from your library, or you can. Yeah, it's probably going to be available cheap to buy, but $5 to rent. Why not?
Gotcha. Very cool. All right. Oh, you were going to talk about Loki, and now you're not going to talk about Loki.
Well,
Loki.
I mean, we can talk about either or. I mean, what would you prefer? Loki or Gen V? I've watched both.
I thought Loki 2 weeks in a row, at least something finally happened, right? And it ended in a screeching cliffhanger where it's like, sorry, spoilers. There was an explosion.
No, we're going to go all spoilers then. If we're going to talk about Loki, that's fine. Gen V, I think we'll wait to talk about that until the finale's next week. So we can talk about Gen V next week.
Yeah, we'll spare that. But yeah, Loki. So most of this episode was played out within the heart of the TVA, which was, I believe, the name of the episode. And you got, great performances from Jonathan Majors. Still wondering how long it's going to be before he just disappears altogether. Do we know kind of where things are at for him in the real world? No,
they brought charges against the woman that charged him with charges, so everybody's getting charged.
Is somebody have a golf pencil and one of those little cards that you keep track?
Checking. Are you under par or over par for charges against domestic abuse?
What's your
like this is a
complex
mix of mess, and
right.
I don't want to deal with it.
Exactly. So, but again, with nothing being filmed, we really don't have to. So anyway. Excuse me, friends. We're recording at 3:00 in the morning. No, not really, but I probably should have had another coffee. But this was all within the TVA. We had all of our major players in force. Some like Ms. Minutes, who we found out are quite evil, got taken down. At this point, Victor Timely, who is he who remains, who is Kang, is helping. And then, the big headline for this episode is the gruesomely implied mega murder of a bunch of people inside of that little crushing cube.
Little box. Yeah,
that we saw a couple episodes back. So I was glad that they decided not to treat us with that, because I didn't want to see the pulpy goo that would have come out of that. But yeah, that's how Ravenna and Miss Minutes. And did you see how Miss Minutes was like smiling and excited?
Yeah, Miss Minutes is turning really into the
kind of
disaffected AI kind of.
Yeah.
Charlie, would this be surprising if you found out Ultron was part of Miss Minutes? Because seems kind of like the AI
Ultron
we would think of, right?
quote unquote destroyed, but never really knew what happened.
Or
you know what I mean?
Miss Minutes and Ultron could get together, have a good time, have a baby.
Why not?
Thing.
That's kind of a thing that you. What would be a baby of Ultron and another AI?
Well, we had Iron Lad. I mean, was Siri or early Alexa coming in?
Yeah. Oh, don't say that. You'll set it off.
I know. I've got Alexa over there in the corner. But I was thinking about that. I'm like, because in the comics, Iron Lad, who is essentially a reincarnation of Kang in the Young Avengers, I mean, could we see that as well? But I'm curious where this goes. But I mean, where this leads us, I mean, in spoilers, into Loki, because I'm not sure how many people are actually watching this thing. But we essentially get Victor Timely, who is, I feel like he's redeemed as not being a bad dude. He's just trying to become a scientist who can be appreciated for his things. And when he eventually tries to do his sacrifice, things go awry, and we get all of the time branches, because they can't get the loom to control them, essentially goes kaput. So is this where we essentially say the multiverse is over and anything that happened from this explosion becomes the mainstream of the MCU?
I mean, I got to tell you, that would be terrific, because this multiversal stuff is really way the hell out of control. You know what I mean? And again, I think the thing that we've kind of griped about since the Multiverse of Madness and since, Disney or Fox things started to integrate in is that story beats and stakes in films kind of become meaningless, because it's just like, oh, well, there's another multiverse or whatever. And I like your idea, and I really hope that's really how things materialize, because that's what I'd like to see. Is okay, well, now we've collapsed everything down, that it's kind of like we were talking about 2015 Secret Wars, where all of the universes got glommed into one whatever. And then there was just one single piece of timeline, or like a Crisis on Infinite Earths, or all Zero Hour, or all the other crisis thingies that followed, making things into one. So then Loki would be alive again normally. And, how does it, but then, Victor Timely, does he still do the Kang thing? Because that's what's going to drive the films that follow with the Fantastic Four and the next Avengers movie. I don't know. I'm curious. I'm super curious. But yeah, this episode ended with a big bang that the loom coalesced and went and everything was shaken and all this different stuff. So yeah, I'm very excited to see. That'll be when April and I get back from setting up for the con on Thursday night. This will be what we'll watch before bed. So very excited. Yeah, very excited to see how this, because it's this is the penultimate episode is this week. It's 6 episodes, right? So
there's 6 episodes, so we have 2 more. So we've got the penultimate episodes next week.
Yep.
And one more episode after that, and then we'll see where this goes.
Yeah.
To this point, we know at this point Deadpool is now most likely going to be pushed, Deadpool 3, to the fall. And that probably moves up the Captain America movie, which
the New
would
World
be
Order
in the May slot, because apparently they're done with all their photography, so they just have to do the post-production stuff.
So it's an actual that's an actual movie that's going to come out. Yeah,
exactly. So I don't know how they deal with all of these things and the impact, because we expected Deadpool 3 to be the one that does, like, it's taking all of the craziness of all of the multiverse,
the Fox,
and kind of like probably embracing it and saying, you're done, I love you, it's not your fault, and then letting it go.
Yeah, I release you into the wild. I don't know, it'll be interesting, but we will know, if you're listening to this on Tuesday, on Thursday, you will know
2 more weeks.
Kind of what the next step is. So that's cool. Good deal. All right, well, I'll blast through a couple of quickies. We are at the end of Shocktober in our house, and April and I have a list. We've duplicated some stuff, but it was funny. The new barometer this week is that through some trade thing that April did in her small business, it was one of these like, hey, get on a Secret Santa list or something. And like you drew a name and you sent that person like a Halloween theme something. April got this thing, they're little wooden cutouts of Halloween themed movie characters. We got 4 big ones, which we have hanging from the swing on our porch as just outside Halloween decor. And then we have a string of 20 of them. I put a picture on my Instagram of them. We have them hanging between the 2 sides of our bookshelf over our TV. And we were looking at this last night or the night before. She says, we're almost there, but we ought to watch the movie that each one of these characters is in. So 2 that remained were Slender-Man, which is a movie from 2018, and Chucky from Child's Play from 1987. So we watched those 2 movies. Yeah, so I'd never seen Slender-Man. It's available for rental, which I rarely do, but I thought, you know what, I'd watch something totally original. Both of these movies were a nice lean 90 minutes, which is also something I really appreciate in a film, because if it's shitty, you can just be like, oh, well, there's 20 minutes left. But yeah, Slender-Man is set in contemporary times, but it's about an urban legend of, at this point, it's kind of like The Ring. You watch a video online, and this long, lasting, character that appears to consume children, the Slender-Man, will appear to you in a vision, typically in the woods in this case. And he's this faceless dude who's wearing a tuxedo, apparently, but he also has big tentacle arms. So he's like, Dr. Octopus or whatever. And there's these 4 young girls, one of which is the black young lady who's the lead in Gen V, Jazz, forgetting her last name, but her first name is Jay-Z. And Jolie King, who you saw in a bunch of things, and then a couple of relatively unknowns, who are 4 friends who fall under the spread of this, because if Slender-Man doesn't abduct you, yet if you lock eyes with him, he will drive you insane. You'll start to see things and eventually come to your own grim end. So the question is, if you haven't seen it, does anyone survive? Don't know. Not going to tell you, but it is available on rental.
Is this like a good movie, though, Charlie?
No, it's definitely some low budget. Feels like it was made in the teens, without a doubt. It definitely has that vibe. It's
inspired by.
It's a teen for the teens. So yeah, it's relatively corny. You got people who don't really talk like people, parents who don't talk like parents. It's just was set and filmed in New England. So there's a lot of New Englandish kind of like the Blair Witch Project kind of gives you kind of that New English, though that was in Maryland, the kind of that Eastern, like old world colonial, like modern colonial vibe. Oh, this was a creature from the 1600s and so kind of that deal. But it was good for scare. Some of it was pretty creepy. It wasn't really body horror gore, but there was a bit of it that was a little tweaky here and there. And then we move on to 1987's Child's Play, and much like the film that we're going to talk about in the Thunderdome, not great. I mean, you had some decent name actors. You had some decent, oh, hey, it's that guy. I saw him in an episode of Star Trek, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, Chris Sarandon, great opening sequence. He's a cop who's chasing Brad Dourif, who is the greatest actor who's been in everything, even has a great Star Trek credit. He played a psychotic Betazoid who was a member of the Voyager crew who killed another guy, then they locked him up, and in the end he redeemed himself.
Played Wormtongue in Lord of the Rings.
Exactly.
Yes.
He was but he was in he was in Alien Resurrection. He's just been in a lot of absolutely great stuff. Well, anyway, he is a serial killer, the Lakeshore Strangler. It's set in Chicago in the winter, clearly, who's being chased by Chris, and they're having a gunfight and then break into a downtown extremely ornate toy store. And, Brad Dourif gets shot several times. He knows that the end is near. So plaster all over this store is the good guys, basically it's the HasLab Cookie Monster style kind of thing. Your Ewok.
All those Cabbage Patches.
But I mean, this thing was easily 3 foot tall, and he as he's dying, he grabs it and he gives it an incantation because he studies voodoo. Now the incantation causes a lightning storm, very singularly above the toy store, which has a great fortunately has a great skylight that lightning can go through, makes the store explode. And then you flash forward to the single mother who's Catherine Hicks, who was Kirk's love interest in Star Trek IV, the whale lady. She doesn't look like a whale. She was just an ocean biologist. And she has a young son who could be one of the worst child actors I think I've ever seen. Aww. But that kid is still involved in the Chucky stuff. I was looking him up. He still is in other Chucky productions that I think even go to this day. Andy is his name. And Andy really wants a Good Guys doll for his birthday. And there's this horrible program on TV. And anyway, he ends up landing with the Good Guy dolls that was obviously imbued with the demonic spirit of Brad Dourif. It turns into a whole thing where, at the end of it, the only way that the Chucky doll or Chucky is the nickname of Charles Lee, whatever, who is Dourif's character. Mm-hmm. But the only way he can survive is by imbuing his demonic spirit into Andy. And so, yes, that's the third act of the film is he's chasing the kid around and all this different stuff. But yeah, super corny, a lot of bad practical effects and then the Chucky doll running around. I said to April, did they either find a couple of midgets or maybe an orangutan or something to be the actual Chucky? Because you see all these long shots of a little person running around, and Chucky goes from absolutely looking like a toy to having a very ornate animated face. His hair changes. It changes in length and color. And then his face is all there. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And then he goes back and he looks like normal Chucky. But yeah, he gets thrown in a fireplace and then I love it. In the end, he's getting shot apart by the cop's gun, and you'll shoot it. His head flies off and his arm flies off.
But it's not over.
And it's not over. Yes, he's the ultimate. Yeah, because his body is dismembered, but he crawls into the vent. First of all, this woman, as a single mother, I feel like her late husband was an architect because you see a drafting table in the background. So maybe that's why they have such a nice apartment, because she works at the jewelry counter at a fancy downtown jewelry store.
Huge commissions.
Huge commissions. To keep that.
Gabor shows up. I need your finest jewelry. I will give you all of the commissions.
I better believe it. Yeah. And, but yet she has to buy the Good Guys doll off of a bootlegger. It's just, there's a lot of, there's about nothing.
That a parent has to get by, Charlie. Not every parent could get a Cabbage Patch doll, on the up and up back in the day.
Bottom line, there's about nothing in this movie that holds up. It's, very anachronistic, very much of its time. And no apologies to the kid actor who played Andy, the absolute worst part of the film. Would have loved to seen him get killed at the end.
And he was in the Cult of Chucky. He came back for that movie.
That's what I was telling you about. Yeah, he continued to be, and he may even be involved in the current television production in some regard. I believe his character showed up.
I can't remember if he died or not in that film.
I thought I looked it up last night, but anyway, that is available on Max if you're interested in maxing out your Halloween experience. But anyway, that's all I got. Todd, time for us to leave the Geek Easy, spat in our drinks yet again, and I'm sure that there was rat in my hamburger. I found a tail. Got to get out that Air Qantas app. We are on our way to the land down under, where Hologram Tina and the mutants await us for the final selection of Shocktober. Let's go.
Welcome to another edition of Thunderdome!
Thank you, Tina. We're sitting in the Thunderdome where the mutants have been gathered for a topic or game to be entertained. And this week, it's Shocktober, the finale, week 5. And we are here, gathered here, by request from one of our Patreons. So if you are a Patreon, you could have done the same thing. Requested one of our Shocktober pieces. And
tell us what to do. We'll do it.
Yeah,
maybe.
So Mr. Johnsendorf said, hey, check out House from 1985, directed by Steve Miner, writers Fred Decker and Ethan Wiley.
Now, Steve Miner also directed something else. Oh, directed H2O, the Halloween H2O, the one with Jamie Lee and Josh Hartnett and
Warlock.
Friday the 13th Part 2. But his name just
shows a lot of things.
Yeah,
like
seemed super familiar. But anyway, please continue. It's just the name was very familiar.
Yeah.
It was driving me nuts.
And writer Fred Decker, known for the Monster Squad, Night of the Creeps, RoboCop, and Predator, a lot of things like that. So I mean, you got some. You actually wrote some episode of Star Trek Enterprise, Charlie. So there you go. There's your Star Trek.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I can't believe he didn't get the star of this one. He would have been great in Star Trek.
Exactly. So House, it's R-rated. Hour and 33 minutes, so a tight 90, as we would say. Thank you for that, respecting your time.
Love it.
House opened in 1,440 theaters on February 28th, 1986, grossed $5.9 million. The opening weekend missing first place to Pretty in Pink.
Ouch!
By the end of its run, House grossed $22.1 million, of which $19.4 million was North American box office.
Big
so
overseas.
Not bad. I mean, I don't know how much it cost to make.
I must have missed this came out about a week after my 10th birthday, so not on the not something Mama would have took us to see at the movie theater. Interesting.
Exactly. And the year is wrong, obviously, and Wikipedia, screw you, Wikipedia, It was 1986. So with that, though, the fact that a horror film did pretty well, I mean, I'm assuming the box office, or the budget was pretty low, but with this movie, it's basically described as Roger Cobb is a Vietnam vet whose career as a horror novelist has taken a turn for the worst when his son Jimmy mysteriously disappears while visiting his aunt's house.
Now that's where I was a little confused because I guess they were visiting. He said, this house, which is a famous LA location, I looked it up and it's actually west of the Anaheim, Pasadena area. So like where Disneyland is, because I'm a geography nut. I like to look something like, where's this house? I got the address and typed it up and it's on some famous road named or whatever. And I looked it up and what looks like, a fairly normal neighborhood, but the house is, it's a gigantic house.
Oh yeah. Great house, well-maintained, great, it's a great house to live in.
Curb value, no doubt.
Awesome,
great house to die in. Yeah.
Awesome pool in the back. I mean, really, there's a place in the back for your stabbing weapons, and also you can make it into a guest house at that point. But at this point, I would tell you the cast is pretty amazing. It's got William Catt, the Greatest American Hero, as our lead. Roger Cobb, Kay Lenz, the romantic interest, the
wife. Yes,
yeah. George Wendt is in this as well as the nosy next door neighbor.
Oh, you better believe it. And at the height of the popularity of Cheers when it was really taken off. This must have been one of those summer projects that he snuck in.
Exactly. Richard Mole kind of plays the bad guy of this. He is, he's also in this as well.
He just passed away a couple of days ago, actually.
Yeah, Richard we got Mary Stavin as kind of like the sexy neighbor across the way who is a weird neighbor just leaving her kid with other people.
Very confusing situation. And yeah, she does. She drops off her kid and then takes off, and she's Swedish or something. It was just very bizarre.
It was
maybe that's
very
a Swedish
weird.
custom. Leave your child with a stranger. That's super cool.
We got Alan Autry from In the Heat of the Night, the actor who played Bubba in that. We got Stephen Williams from who was another cop. From 21 Jump Street as well. And then the other one that made me laugh was Mindy Sterling is a big fan in this movie. Also is Frau Brucker from Austin Powers.
Yeah, exactly. Frau Farbissina, the leader of the militant wing of the Salvation
I think
Army.
of Frau Brucker from Young Frankenstein.
Oh, there you go. Yes, no, Frau Farbissina, which was probably a riff on that exact thing. Bring in the fembots! Yeah, Mindy Sterling is
versus what was it when she would say something and the horses would always whinny? Yeah. From Young Frankenstein. So that's your cast, and then basically to let you know that House didn't end with this film. It actually got 4 films. The film I'm most familiar with is House 2, which happened later. It's called The Second Story in 1987. House 3, I did not know this happened.
The horror show.
And then House 4, Repossession in 1992. And obviously, every film after that kind of fell off from money and reception.
Straight decline.
So this movie is a pretty simple premise, basically. Author moves into the house, struggling with loss from an ex-wife, a lost child, dead aunt, and then has to basically trying to go after his own, demons from the Vietnam War.
Literally and figuratively. Yeah, because it was, William Catt is a successful writer who is, his life is kind of falling apart because his kid disappeared. Doesn't really know what happened. And they try to really red herring it up because there's an early flashback sequence where he sees his kid and then he runs out front where he thinks his kid is and a car speeds away. So like, oh my God, this kid got abducted. Then he turns around and sees the kid drowning in the pool or something because the house is cursed. And did we figure out why the house was it like built on a Native American burial ground or something? It was just straight up, kind of highway to hell.
Was just a horrible person.
Yeah.
she brought upon bad juju.
She just practiced witchcraft in the basement. There was just
made a deal with the devil for a good mortgage rate.
Exactly. Oh boy. Oh yeah. Oh, you can raise my rate by 0.5%. I'm into
I'll take it.
Yeah, exactly.
Eat my children. Eat my relatives.
Exactly.
Yes,
and the aunt herself was, again, there was another Star Trek connection. She was in an episode of TNG where she carried a crazy old lady who attacked Chancellor Troy.
I want to be that person that gets that cast thing. Like, I want to be the crazy old person and just cast me and everything, and that's what I am.
Yeah, it just shows up. Oh, there he is again. It's fun stuff. Todd and Mr. Sidorf, thank you for this. But this was this was also kind of packed with music. I noticed there was a lot of there were like weird versions of like old love songs from the 60s and stuff. I remember from the soundtrack. I'll have to look.
It had a weird, and this movie, I would say the best thing about this movie was, or the worst thing maybe, I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel about it. It didn't know what tone it was going after. It was like, hey, I'm dealing with my demons from Vietnam, and by the way, then we're going to deal with like slapstick comedy with like dead, weird like creatures, and like Billy Bass, who is a swordfish.
Oh, God, I got that. I said, oh, you're about a decade too early for that trend. Yeah, take me to the river. Okay, so here's the songs. We had a version of You're No Good, which was made most famously remade by Linda Ronstadt in the 70s. Yep. And then an old doo-wop tune called Dedicated to the One I Love, which was also done by the Mamas and Papas in the 60s. That's the version of it I think of. But just, very, very weird with like the creatures, like, at one point, the house tricks him into thinking his ex-wife shows up and she walks in, but he sees it as this big, horrifying, gross creature and blows it away with a shotgun. But then it turns back into his dead ex-wife. So we thought, oh God, he killed her. But then it turns back into the critter and continues to try to get him. But then he kills it and chops it up and buries it in like 50 different spots in his backyard. But then the sexy Swedish neighbor lady shows up and she has a dog who digs up the like a
No,
big
it was
hand.
George Wentz dog.
Oh, George Wentz dog. Yeah, it grabs
dug up
the
the
hand,
hand,
and then runs off with it. And then the Swedish lady shows up with her kid for no reason, and the dead hand is on his back. And she's like, "Hey, I got to go for a little while. Take my kid." And I'm like, "Was she going out on a date?"
But wait, that chick showed up in his pool,
Right.
uninvited, just there, and there was no mention of a kid at the time. So he's like, "Ooh, I'm going to have a booty call."
No shit.
And then it turns into like I'm a babysitter.
And where was she
didn't
going?
understand that whatsoever.
Did she go out on a date and then it obviously didn't end well? Did she?
But then she allows him to give the kid a bath. It's just like red flags. Like, oh, here's my kid. Give him a bath. I'm like, is that something you do to a complete stranger?
Not even a little bit. That's not.
Man,
cool.
the 80s, Charlie, we just allowed our children to be handed off to people, and we assumed no ill intent.
Hey, look, it was the 80s. We had people had shit to do. That's just kind of where it was at.
Bad people didn't exist in the 80s. Only today do they exist.
The bad people was an invention of the 90s. Everybody knows that.
Exactly. But it was weird. This movie did feel like almost like, if you remember, the second Evil Dead, where it was kind of a little bit comedic. The creatures were like a little bit over the top, like this woman who was shot, the weird creature that you saw. There was almost like, and then there was a creature in the closet that looked like something from It, The Thing, right? So it was weird.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't really like horrific. It was more cartoonish and over the top.
It was bizarre. It was bizarre. But again, the house and then the people on the show. We picked two movies that were from LA that had kind of super cool house weird like settings that were like super creepy and iconic. I was going back to the original article that I had read. So this was filmed in 1985, and a total of 7 monsters were designed and fabricated for the production. These creatures, including the witch and the corpse. Oh, the corpse of Big Ben. That was a great one. So he's having all these flashbacks about being in Vietnam, and his squad mate was Richard Bull from Night Court, who just passed away this week. Very, very sad. Who was, a complete psycho killer and, died back in Vietnam. And then this hallucinations, this zombie version of him shows up to beat the crap out of him and kill him at the end of the film.
And the whole thing was like he was mad at Roger for not killing him as he was shot by the Viet Cong, because he's like, oh, they're gonna take me away and torture me. I'm like, how much longer was he actually going to live, considering he took like 18 bullets? Like,
buddy, it's okay. You're gonna die. Just
I got punished for 2 minutes. I'm blaming you for that.
Exactly. It wasn't there wasn't the 18 bullets I took exactly. So, film aggregator on Rotten Tomatoes approval rating of 57% based on 14 views. But 14? That's what 14 critics. In 1987, Richard Mull and Cade Lenz were both nominated for Saturn Awards, as was director Stephen Miner. So, I
have to say though, there were some weird parts about this movie. Obviously, his son abducted his wife, left him, and divorced him,
right?
Because of this, and George Wendt was involved too. But George Wendt tried to sell him out at one point because he was bringing the cops because he heard the gun come off. But then he became a buddy to try to take out something. It was just narratively didn't flow well.
It was kind of tonally all over the place. The bit with the kid, and so in the third act.
How long ago was the kid missing?
That's what
we found out. He's trapped actually in the house into a.
That's what.
thing.
Yeah, that's what April and I. We were talking about, we were like, how long could that kid, because basically our hero suspends himself on a rope and is climbing down this nothingness.
Well, he goes through the medicine cabinet mirror because his Aunt Drew did paintings that showed like, here's the weird things in this house.
A portal to the,
our bathroom window or the mirror is actually a portal to the unknown.
And that's how he finds
Vietnam.
The kid. But the kid is in this, this ethereal Vietnam in one of these, bamboo cages. But how long has he been there? Why isn't he covered in his own filth? And how does he get food and water? So why is he, not starved to death? That's the question.
A skeleton, yeah. And then
exactly.
Down there, as you said, he had to put a rope down through this like portal into the middle of nowhere.
And it was all black, and it was like this Ray Harryhausen creatures flying around attacking him, and eventually
stole his shotgun.
Yeah.
And then shot the rope with the shotgun.
Right. That was
what?
Impressive, exactly. So it is there's a lot of this. It's very much, I hate to use the expression because Todd, you use it all the time, but very much of its time. There's just a lot of weirdness going on. But man, the 80s was a weird time. Cocaine is a hell of a drug. The 80s was a weird time.
They didn't really look at the script and say, does that make sense? Nope, put it out.
It's not,
it doesn't matter.
Like I said, so release. So as you had copied. You had copied this bit. It made $220, but it doesn't really say about the budget.
I'm guessing very low.
Yeah.
I'm guessing very low budget.
Yeah.
So it's probably successful.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You could get the soundtrack on vinyl cassette or CD, and then, as you'd mentioned, there was a ongoing of other films, which I'd say I'm interested in it, but I don't really feel.
I would say watch the second movie, Charlie. So that's what brought me into the House franchise was the second movie. Second movie is completely different. It's like almost like a action adventure movie with a fantasy twinge. It's like Ari Myers is in this movie. I think Bill Maher is in this movie. It's I would say House 2 is a fun film with a weird Old West tint. It's kind of fun. So I would say I think House 2 is better than House 1, but I saw that when I was a teenager.
So it was like Empire Strikes Back.
I don't remember if it's much better.
Empire Strikes Back versus A New Hope. So the house, just so you know, Victorian style home built in 1887 on Melrose Avenue in Monrovia, California at the time. Building was owned by two Los Angeles firemen, brothers Brian and John Wade. So exteriors there, and then everything else was done.
Professional bachelors.
Renmar Studios in Hollywood. When two of my mom's brothers, my uncles, when they were in their 20s and bachelors, they had a cool house on Lake Michigan. It's a good deal for bachelors. Lots of I'm sure lots of chicks running around.
Confirmed bachelors is what they would say. No.
Yeah, at that time, neither one of them got married and had kids until they were in their 40s. So hey, you know what? Maybe that's the way to do it. Of course, you're at a high school reunion. Ow, my hip. You're too old. Oh my goodness. So anyway, all right. So Todd, to wrap this up, if you were to give this 1 out of 10 severed obese witch claws, what are you giving it?
Give this one like a 3.5. It was like the biggest problem I had with it was the tone. It was goofy at times and it was super serious. He was dealing with his demons and they couldn't figure it out.
Dealing with his
ex-wife shows up and it's like, oh, my child is not aged a day in 3 years that he's been missing in this house.
And they don't even say it could have been like 3 weeks, but divorces
Nobody knows.
Yeah, well, a divorce with a kid takes a year in most cases, so
your kid is missing. That probably took some time too, Charlie. I'm guessing.
Yeah, exactly.
He's gone.
Oh, it was time dilation and all this different stuff. So you're right. I'd have to hone with you. I'd probably give it a solid 3 severed hands because there's just really no way to go about it. And they're just watching it. Just April's reactions alone, she was just like, what is going on here?
And then Richard Mull. I mean, I love Richard Mull's character, but the fact is like, you're immune to me now, so I'm going to put this grenade up your gullet.
Yeah,
but that's real. But everything else is fake. And then it explodes and the house goes down.
The movie has no rules and it doesn't follow any rules that it may suggest that it has that it doesn't ultimately have.
So essentially, after this, I got my 90 minutes and I walked away and I'm like,
to quote Homer Simpson, well,
it's not my time.
It's not quite a mop and it's not quite a puppet. So to answer your question, I don't know.
House. Not Roadhouse. House.
Oh man. All right. Well, that is the end of the show and the end of Shocktober. I am glad that we do this segment every year because even though I kind of roll my eyes like, oh boy, Todd's all about Halloween and stuff. Blah, blah, blah.
It's fun.
But it is fun.
5 films.
How much fun is that? We did have some fun. But with that, we bring this to a close. Please go out and enjoy your Halloween. I hope kids don't listen to us, but if you do, kids, be safe. Don't get the razor blade.
Stay warm.
Don't stay warm.
Cold as hell.
Don't eat the candy with the razor blades in it. That's should be a red flag.
And all that pot candy. Sorry, nobody's putting pot candy out there.
Yeah, exactly.
It's too expensive.
They're saving it for themselves. Anyway, Todd, where do people find you out there?
Oh, on the threads at Shocktober and at Secret Friends Unite with dots in the middle. Go there. I'm also on Twitter still putting stuff out there, but Threads is the place I'm going to be because Twitter's going to start charging. So enjoy.
Ooh, and that's interesting that you say. I have been kind of forcing myself onto Threads, just looking and following people and blah, blah, blah. But I am still active on X so far. Over there, I'm at the C3. But if you look on Instagram or on Threads, I'm C3 Carpenter. Spell that out. That's my pseudonym. But more importantly, and I'm gonna steal some time here. If you listen to this the week that we put this out, so basically the Halloween week, the end of November, the USS Grand Petoskey, the chapter of the International Star Trek Fan Club that my wife and I run, we do our biggest event of the year at Grand Rapids Comic-Con, downtown Grand Rapids here in Michigan at the DeVos Place. That's November 3, 4, and 5. Most importantly, there's a couple of different fun events going on Friday night of the con. We're participating in something called the Klingon Drinking Party, which was the genesis of an idea that my wife came up with while talking to a promoter at Star Trek Las Vegas. 2 actors from Star Trek Deep Space Nine, the actors who played at General Martok and at Chancellor Gowron, will be the guests of honor to a fun party we're going to have in the Bob, or the big old building, which is right at the middle of town on Fulton here in Grand Rapids. Friday night at 7:30, $5 cover charge. But members of the chapter will be there to talk to you about what we do, and of course, a couple of cool Klingons. Most importantly for the con, Saturday night, that would be November 4th, at 7 p.m. in Grand Overlook Gallery E at the DeVos Place after the close of the show, will be our chapter's 2nd annual meeting. Most importantly, we don't have a lot of content planned because we have an enormous silent auction geared towards charity for the Make-A-Wish Foundation of Michigan. I probably talked about it in the past, but I had a young son named Parker who passed away in 2020 after a lifelong illness. He was 13. Before he passed away, he and his brother, my other son, and my ex-wife were sent to Disney World through the auspices of Make-A-Wish in Michigan. So I'm eternally grateful that my son got to have this wonderful experience with everything else that was going on in his life. So every nickel that we raise at every event that we do goes directly to Make-A-Wish. April and I run the company, our little company, as a complete nonprofit. We pay for everything ourselves. But the silent auction, we have over 60 items generously donated by people from our chapter. Please come check it out. It's in-person auctioning. You don't have to attend the show. Just walk on in, come on upstairs, because it's after hours. You're able to do that. We'll also have, if you do come see us at the booth, other items available for purchase, such as our tribbles, such as other books and magazines that have been donated, Star Trek items. Again, everything goes back to Make-A-Wish Foundation of Michigan. So really look forward to seeing you there. If you do want more information, check us out on our USS Grand Petoskey Discord. Contact us via email from our website or find us on other social medias. And we would love to hopefully see you there and raise some good money for a good cause. So, okay, that was my first.
And I have actually a mulligan, Charlie, because I forgot that this is a big weekend coming up for Extra Life Charity, which goes to children's
fantastic.
Hospitals.
I love it.
And we've done that. And Bob, this goes out to Bobby Pauls, our big supporter. He was a big supporter of this with Lee Navarro, who is our admin for our Discord, and they host it in Rome, New York. I have not been able to attend that, but they're going to be doing that this weekend coming up. Over the weekend, they're going to be streaming for children's hospitals that supports kids who are sick in there. And Mark and I both support that. We're going to actually Lee on our podcast that's going to be recording tomorrow, but we want people to be out there. If you want to support myself, I'll be doing what I can to support the charity for Extra Life. It's all about that. So we're going to be talking about that on the podcast. But if you would like to donate, Phoenix Overdrive is the main charity. So reach out to them, and phoenixoverdrive.com, I believe, is the way to do that. But I'll be doing my best this weekend to stream and hopefully raise some money for children's hospitals, just like your son was at a hospital, and anybody that can support those kids who are there as well. We'll be doing that through the love of video games. And I'm not able to go to Rome, New York, But Mark and I will be talking about it with Lee on the next episode of Co-op Mode.
Fantastic. Good stuff. So yeah, give when you can. Always give back. That's really what life is all about in a lot of ways, is helping us each other out as one human family, without a doubt. All right, that's a lot heavier than we usually get. But friends, as always, thank you for joining us. I'm going to tell you that sharing is caring, and keep on trucking.
Be the hero, not the villain.
In a truck.
House, not Roadhouse.
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network. Visit secretfriendsunite.com for more great shows, articles, news, reviews, and more. Secret Friends Unite podcasts are available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and other podcast services around the world. If you'd like to be part of the conversation, you can join us on Facebook or our new Discord server, or follow @SecretFriendsU on Twitter. Please subscribe to Secret Friends Unite on YouTube and visit our merch store at tpublic.com. Just search Secret Friends Unite. Thanks for listening.